If I gave a fuck what y'all think I would be doing this? Welcome to the FMFU podcast, the podcast that's from me, for us. Vulgar but true, real and never fake. I'm your host, Reese, and I've got a lot of shit on my mind today, so let's get into it. So one thing I've noticed, and I'll say specifically since I've been in Atlanta for 3 years now, 3 years is just, man, the time is fucking flying by. But one thing I've noticed and wondered, like, why do women be walking with their ass cheeks out during their birthday? And so I'm at the mall the other day, and there's this group of 3 chicks walking around, and one had on a birthday sash. And I noticed that one of the security guards was talking to the girl, and they started having words. The security guards was telling the girl that she had to leave because her ass was out, and she had already been told she was dressed inappropriately. My thing is, one, you know that damn skirt is too damn small or whatever, so I don't know why you keep pulling it down, or really why you even put it on in the first place. Secondly, why are you putting this shit on to wear just around the mall? I mean, I get it, it's Atlanta, and Atlanta's not a real place, and everybody trying to get chose, but some shit is just like, come on, man. Like, what we really doing? And to make matters worse, you getting upset with the security guard for doing her job because you out here indecently exposing yourself in the mall where there could be some kids around? We ain't at the club. We ain't at the hookah spot. We in the goddamn mall. I've heard of it's my birthday, so I'm showing my ass, but this shit is ridiculous. Also, another thing, speaking of attention, one thing I noticed too, and I kind of thought about randomly, why when people realize that, like, let's just say like you're like sitting at the game, right? And you're over here and you're having a conversation with your shorty or whatever. Why when people realize that they're on like the Jumbotron or that they're being recorded, they just start doing extra shit? Like, you might just be sitting there having a regular conversation out of nowhere, niggas see on the Jumbotron, so then they get, throwing up gang signs and doing whatever the fuck. Like, and I'm not knocking niggas for doing it because it's something we all do. I don't know why, but I just do it. But anyways, happy Friday, people, and welcome to an all-new exciting episode of the From Me For Us podcast. I hope you all had an amazing past couple of weeks, and this early month of July is really treating you well. I feel like, honestly, I've been in a time warp as I was disconnected and off the grid for 7 days for a family cruise. In total, it was like 30 people in our group, and getting there for everyone apparently was the toughest thing because it seemed like every flight out of every airport was either canceled or delayed. Ironic enough, I decided a while ago to drive down to Miami to catch the boat instead of flying because ticket prices were sky high, and with so much going on this year, I had to save some money on the budget somehow. Probably would have ended up getting there later than expected with all the flight cancellations, so me driving was a good decision by me, as always. But it felt good to really treat this like an old school vacation. I mean, like, legit not do anything on my phone except use it as a digital camera because I decided not to sign up for the full internet package. I think I honestly needed this refresh to get my mind right by putting a pause on the normal hustle and bustle of my everyday life. Constantly refreshing, social media and emails in the downtime of boredom it just wouldn't allow me to have that refresh. I told mostly everyone who needed to know, I was going to be off the grid, but of course, niggas don't listen. There was like internal Wi-Fi, of course, that you had to pay for to get the full whatever access. But, it seemed like some notifications were able to sneak in. And I think partly because when I got to different islands and got off airplane mode, you technically got data. So things were able to sneak in, whatever. But some of these texts I were getting were just not really about nothing. Or even the text I got about, talking about like, hey, call me. Yeah, okay. Calls is $5.99 a minute on the boat. Hit you when I get back to the States, nigga. I mean, even some social sites were able to send notifications, but you really couldn't read what it was informing you about. Like, this shit actually, in a weird way, it reminded me of that Netflix show. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was where they were talking about how the tech is taking over and how they're pushing messages to your phone if you haven't been on social media or whatever the site is in a while. And this shit is really true. I saw it in action. I was getting notifications that like I've never seen before. Like things like, oh, such and such commented on such and such's photo,
or such and such a story expires in 2 hours. Check it out now. Like, I've never seen these specific notifications before. And I know it's because I wasn't fully connected online to these apps for like 6 or 7 days. Crazy shit. Just as crazy as the report that OpenAI's AI model attempted to copy itself to external servers after being threatened with a shutdown, then denied it when it got caught. Yeah, real life Ultron is here, folks. So we should all be a little nervous. But anyways, the trip was fun, but just way too long for my liking. I took a 7-day cruise about 8 years ago, and on about day 5, I was ready to be at the crib. For this one, probably about day 5 again. I think part of that is because your 2 fun day at the seas are at the end, and at that point, I'm like, I'm done having fun at the sea. I'm ready to go the fuck home because there's nothing else to do on this boat. And I just, being that it was a big gap from the last cruise I had, I think it'll probably be another big gap because I don't really foresee myself taking another cruise for a while because, they're cool. Maybe I'd take a shorter one and really appreciate it even more. But honestly, I just don't think cruises are really my thing. My lovely older black folks, though, they fucking love cruises. I don't know if there's some type of statistical data that proves this, but it seems like as soon as you hit the age of 45 plus, that boat must unlock something inside of you because I swear the Black 45 Plus Coalition was on there heavy. I don't know if it's because they feel like they're taking back the power to choose to go on the boat compared to our ancestors who were forced to go on, or what. I'm thinking it's probably the line dances that do it though. The line dances are the back that ass up equivalent to older folks. Like, no bullshit. I had this older lady who almost whacked me in the face with a fucking fan because she was so hyped when Boots on the Ground came on. Actually, I take that back. Boots on the Ground wasn't even on yet. I believe it was a Casper slide. But they be so ready to flick them fucking fans that they just be flicking them every fucking line dance, even when it ain't Boots on the Ground. Like, yo, like, dead ass, this fucking fan was legit like an inch from connecting to my fucking face. Like, if that shit would have connected, like, I probably would have lost my good fucking eye. And I mean, granted, I would have also been a one-eyed paid nigga too, because them shits is supposed to be prohibited on the cruise. Hey, give me the newest boat y'all coming out with. I want a piece of all proceeds to my bank account, and we gonna name the boat the SS Carnival Scup. Them fucking fans, man. Niggas don't listen at all. But it also seems like, outside of the fans and the boots on the ground, that all the older folks who were killing it with the line dances and flicking the fucking fans, it also seems like they all brought all their YN kids or YN grandkids with them as well. Yo, these little niggas is wild, bro. And as much as I used to be on some real wild shit back in the day, I would at least have some type of home training or decency when in certain places. So apparently, and I found out about this when I got off the boat, someone got arrested for fighting at about 3:30 in the morning. Mind you, this was on the last night of the cruise, and the boat docked in Miami around 7 a.m. So you only had about 3.5 hours to go, little niggas, and you would have been straight if you wanted to get off the boat and beat a nigga ass. Now you probably gonna get fined, get banned, and maybe even arrested. The funniest thing I saw though was on this Facebook group where a guy had said that like he would never go back on one of these cruises because everything cost, even the items being presented as complimentary, which was a fact. If you're at dinner, it comes around like shots, shots, shots with these fucking glasses. You thinking it's all good. Them shits is $11 a piece. Niggas got me for 2, but whatever. Anyways, the dude also said like he also wanted to make sure that he didn't leave out the young folks walking onto one of the decks screaming, "Where the hoes at?" I actually thought that was funny as fuck. I ain't gonna hold you. But of course, as the algorithm goes, like all of a sudden, I'm seeing like mad videos going viral about the ghetto-ness and attempted bans of the fans, portable speakers, and possibly line dances and shit. They call it the ghetto cruise line for a reason. And the other day, I saw someone on my timeline post that they taking their 4 kids on a cruise this fall. And that motherfucker definitely takes the cake for ghetto. I think if we want to, quote unquote, lessen the ghetto on the cruise, start requiring these niggas to have a passport. I'm not saying it'll work for everyone because some of these non-home training motherfuckers may still have one, But trust, this will weed out a lot of the motherfuckers. And one other thing I realized too, being on this fucking cruise, before this realization, I didn't think it was really a big deal. Especially because I've seen families do this at Disney for kids' birthdays and things like that. But I've come to the realization that I hate those fucking matching t-shirts. I fucking hate them. Like, every time I turned around, I saw a gang of niggas on this boat with the matching t-shirt that said some super cliche bullshit that just really fucking irked me. Aw, shit. It's a grad trip. Cruise squad, bring us cruising to 50. Tanner's cruising through graduation, making memories one wave at a time. Making waves with family, rocking the waves. In my cruise era. Oh, shit. It's a family and friends ride. This is my cruise shirt. I love it when we're cruising together. This week, I don't give a shit. Cruise squad. Oh, shit. It's a family trip. Rocking the waves again. I have no cruise control. It's like the trips just booked themselves. Bro, people really be walking around like a team of Power Rangers wearing the same fucking matching t-shirts. That ain't swaggy. Hell, even if it's not a swaggy type trip because it's a family affair, speaking for the men, man, just get you a pack of white tees and some black tanks and call it a day, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting more irritable about silly shit as I get older. But here's a note. Don't ever ask me to wear no matching fucking t-shirts on no cruise because I ain't fucking doing it.
And now here's the news by A.O. Reese. Woo-hoo!
Welp, apparently he didn't do it. So while on my ghetto cruise trip, the news broke on Wednesday that Puff was found guilty of 2 charges for transportation to engage in prostitution in his federal trial that took place in New York, but was acquitted of the more severe charges, including racketeering conspiracy and the 2 charges of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. The prostitution-related charges allegedly violate the Mann Act, which is a law that makes it a federal crime to transport someone across state lines for prostitution. Now, this is a very sensitive topic, so I'm going to be very careful with my words here and try to be myself, which a lot of times I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being dead ass and y'all just think I'm being funny. So I'm going to be real careful and be very, very clear on my intentions for things that I say. So I do want to start by saying, hey, calling me now, because I fucking spoke slightly to this in the last pod of how I hated the social media news coverage for a lot of this trial. And I had stated that the focus seemed to be on things that to me didn't really matter much. The social media news sites weren't making me feel, as someone who isn't even a juror, super confident without a reasonable doubt in what the prosecution was presenting. And I feel like my comments were a precursor to really just what the fuck just happened. Call me now for your free reading. I'm not a big law guy, but I just feel like everyone probably agrees that, when the feds start doing raids, usually it's a 10 times out of 10 thing they got something. Like, they don't usually just be raiding shit just kind of, I guess, hoping. Like, normally you're fucked. They're not spending that money to do that. And I mean, the way those raids even happened and the way they were telling the story, like, you really thought that, like, something explosive was going to come out of this. Because, I mean, they'll pull the trigger for sure if it's something huge. But I didn't think that they would pull the trigger and only hit with just some prostitution charges. And I mean, really just to speaking up on those charges, like when I did read up on this, like one thing that stood out to me in one of the articles was where I believe one of the jurors who might have been hung up on the deliberation, or maybe it was someone who was just watching, I can't quite remember at the moment, but they were saying that, based on all the evidence that was presented, they weren't sure if it was like, did he really pay for prostitution, or was that just he was paying for the person who was involved's time during the freak-offs? Which, I mean, if you think about that as someone who's like not rich but living a regular life, isn't that, I mean, is that considered prostitution? If you ever, like, in the funny way, trying to be funny a little bit now, where we used to be like, I don't pay him to stay, I pay him to leave. I feel like what a lot of this is so many gray areas for things like based on the letter of the law. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a law guy, so I'm not going to speak to this perfectly, but I'm trying to speak to it from the perspective of someone who isn't perfect at the law and is someone who hopefully would never be a juror for nothing like this, but it's people who aren't lawyers that are typically going to be jurors, and it makes this shit just seem very fucking complicated, you know? And I think also too, just what really didn't help the prosecution in this um, was just all the text messages that came out. You know, I'm always ready to freak off, and they said it was also unveiled that she reached back out to him wanting to come back. I know there's some psychological aspects to this, and some people are going to say, well, manipulation and power and et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes those things are to be considered. I forget what that movie was with Tom Holland, where he got off of whatever charge for insanity, and that was like based on a true story. There's very rare instances where you can use psychology to overstate facts of things. And not that we want to discredit that could have happened. We have to think about the mindset of the actions that went along with what he's actually being charged with in this very gray fucking area, at least in my regular non-lawyer opinion. And I just think it even going to like the RICO, for example, like not to compare it to Young Thug, but it's like it just seems like these niggas are just shooting their shot from half court, hoping to get somebody for some RICO shit. Because I mean, even they're trying to say even if you do something as simple as using a business credit card one time, that can get you indicted as running a criminal enterprise. I don't think that's accurate. And I think that that's okay with that not being a guilty verdict, because it just sounds like you're just, again, shooting from the hip, hoping you hit something. And I'm, thinking of that again, kind of going back again, thinking about the Thug thing with the feds in Atlanta. Like, it's crazy how these RICOs are just popping up. It seems like there is somebody trying to do something to take a bunch of shit down simultaneously and not just get one person. And I think about that from like not trying to be Mr. Conspiracy guy, but sometimes it is hard for you not to think that certain things that happen don't have to do with some other shit and not just about prosecution wanting to just do the right thing to charge him. From like the DeLeon owes him $2 billion rumor, or to whatever else that's out there. I think there's a lot of these high power motherfuckers that all do dirt with each other, and they all know where the metaphoric bodies are buried. But we got to remember, it doesn't really matter until the shit is exposed to the public. I mean, that's really where all of this damage is done. Not really within the action itself, because if you guys all got money and you all doing your dirt on the low, nobody's going to say nothing because the money comes to power, right? I even think that video from 2016 in a hotel didn't really work in the prosecution's favor either. There already was there was already the settlement where he paid, and I think that video was leaked to try to sway the perception for these charges of the people / jurors. And it probably did do it a lot for the people, but the jurors stood 10 toes with what the defense was saying, was that he's not being charged for that. Like, yes, he's a piece of shit and an asshole for doing that for sure, but as the defense said, he wasn't being charged for that. It was already settled. So you can't really take that into account as much as I feel like a lot of people were doing. And I think that, again, it was leaked to try to persuade people. I mean, if I made a mistake and I was on trial for some other shit, that'd be bullshit if I pay some M's and we gonna use that as evidence for some other shit when I done already settled, even if it's wrong because I got the money or not. I think probably a lot of women felt for Cassie in the situation and probably wanted him hit with all the charges just on the strength of that video alone. Because, I mean, even if he, ain't do any of the 5 charges he was not convicted, but accused of, because of that video alone, they would have wanted him locked up for all that shit, even if he 1,000% never did any of it. But, at the end of the day, as much as, the feds weren't doing this on the strength of trying to be good people, I think doing what's right, and I think it was some bullshit. I still don't think that, on the flip side, it's not like Diddy did some good shit either. And I don't really think it's a time to really celebrate him, not getting a reduced sentence or only getting charged from 2 out of the 5 things. I do relate to I don't know what the word is, but the black man, I wouldn't even say beating the system, because even if you look at the Thug situation, he still got had a plea. But you still always look at it when a black man not even gets off, but does better than you anticipated. You always do look at it like, okay, the system is not meant for us. So for us to actually beat it, you kind of look at it in the sense of like, not me personally, but I could see how somebody could be like, oh yeah, we actually beat the system, even if we really didn't beat it. But you didn't get hit over the head as hard as it could have been. So you take it as like a win, although you shouldn't. So I can always be understanding, even if I totally disagree. But at the end of the day, this shit doesn't change anything in my life at all. It's really just all mostly gossip and billionaire bullshit that really is never going to affect me at this point. So yeah, all the squirting baby powder, baby oil shit is hella fucking ignorant. It doesn't do anything for us. And it's not even really, even if you are a big, like, yeah, I want my nigga Puff home and to get off, it really isn't even the time to celebrate, even if you do land in that crowd. Because, I mean, for those 2 charges, he still can face a max of up to 10 years for each charge, which would be 20 years. But I will just say this, now that shit is over, hopefully from both sides, everybody can move on from this. People are human beings, even if they are fucked up human beings, but you do want people to learn from their mistakes and do the work to get better. That's all you can do, is try to be a real remorseful person and try to get better from the lesson you learned from thinking you were untouchable. But we'll see what happens moving forward. In my opinion, I think things will, probably go back to maybe not how exactly they were, but the parties will probably be back on whenever he gets out, if he gets convicted or however. I know they pushed to have the sentencing in July, but it's still going to be going on as normal in October. So because of he had already been in jail for a year, I honestly feel like he's going to get time served in probation, in house arrest. I don't really think he's going to get much more time than that. Yeah, that's just what I think in the conclusion of that shit, what happened while I was on the ghetto-ness of the cruise. But one thing I do want to know, and I feel like this always gets glossed over, and again, this is part of that social media news coverage that I say, like, shit doesn't get talked about enough and that we're missing. And maybe I missed this. Was it confirmed that the baby oil was laced with drugs? I feel like that was a thing, but then I thought that got debunked. So I guess my question is, let's just, again, I didn't do my due diligence on this little piece, I will admit that. If that is true, that it wasn't laced with drugs, then why isn't the reporter not falling back on that? Or maybe that was part of one of the charges that got dropped. I don't know. It just seemed like that just didn't get talked about anymore. And then, like, also the other question I had was, they said there was a bunch of like AKs found in the house that had like no serial numbers on them. What happened to all the guns? Like, how did that get swept away? I don't know, man. Again, I just think we get too caught up about, baby oil jokes and shit, that we really don't just focus on, all the real news cycle of things that got brought up initially, and we just lose sight of really what it is. But again, ain't got nothing to do with me, just my humble thoughts, and hopefully they can move on from it. And I don't really want to hear about the shit no more. So thoughts and prayers. So the 4th of July just passed, and I know there's a lot of us that like to say, fuck the 4th, and we wearing all black and doing a whoop-de-whoop thing, and I mean, I'll say it right there with you, you know what I mean? But I mean, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, for real. Man, I would rather be right here in America than probably any other fucking country. As much as we despise the flag and hate what it symbolizes, from some of the past things it symbolizes, but also to what is currently representing right now, because things are just so fucked up. I think the main synopsis of what the red, white, and blue is supposed to be is a representation of all people, no matter the color, race, or your ethnicity. Of course, like I said, the lines are very fucking blurred right now. It's kind of like me when I X'd out the Cavs on my hat because I'm like, these just ain't my niggas. It's kind of like that with your country. Like when things are fucked up, you're like, man, these ain't my niggas. But like when shit is good, you like, these is my niggas. Or like Team USA basketball. I'm not rooting for team whoever. I'm rooting for Team USA, nigga, because that's where I'm from. So I think I'm just, part of me, and maybe this is a little naive, but as much as I talk shit and have fun and do what I do, I think still going back to who I am at the core is probably, an innocent person. And thinking that, I think people, of course, as with the previous trial we talked about with Diddy, there's people out there to make mistakes. But I do think that people are, for the most part, outside of a few percentage of evil motherfuckers, most people are mostly good or want to do the right thing. In my humble opinion, I believe that from a majority. So many people in this country and in the world, it may not seem like it, but I do feel like that's the case. I just think sometimes there are influences or hardships that sway people's judgment. Then they really don't understand. I had a real life example with the All Lives Matter bullshit back in 2016. I had a supervisor who I genuinely think that he just didn't get it. And he was like, thinking that Black Lives Matter meant, fuck everybody else's lives. And he's like, well, why can't it just be all lives matter? He's like, I'm not thinking anybody's less than anyone. I think we should all be equal. And I was like, well, listen, we're not. And I understand because you're from rural Pennsylvania and you didn't really grow up around anyone Black. So you've never experienced it or understood it. And I compared it kind of to like raising money for cancer. I said, if I have a cancer fundraiser for lung cancer, because I had a parent who I lost to that or something, and then, I'm saying, hey, I want to do something for lung cancer. You can't come up to me like, well, what about breast cancer? All cancers matter. Like, we're not saying fuck the other causes or fuck the other people. We just want to be equal. And I think sometimes people, we're in our own bubble. We don't understand that there are real life situations where we do need to melt together, and there should always just be some type of unity. But there's always things that are going to continue to divide us, but we have to look above that. We don't want to get beat down and be, like Mahatma Gandhi, where they beating our ass. Like, no, I'm more of a Malcolm X motherfucker by any means. But sometimes, they say be the bigger person by not reacting. I'm a firm believer in that in some situations, but there are sometimes where you just gotta just tear shit down. So I'm using that example just to say, like, even for ourselves, we see the quiet white kid at school. We might think, oh man, what he gonna do? Like, and I don't know. I think I get a little not annoyed by it because I really don't care. But sometimes I think we just forget the fact of, where we are. And there are a lot of privileges that are with being here. And I think the hardships should never be forgotten about, in that this country was built on the backs of our ancestors and we really invented and did every fucking thing. So I think there is some pride in that. And I think we more so need to give more education about that, about who invented this and how the idea from something came from this Black person and how we really built the country up. And I think that's where I say the history and all into now, everything is interwoven. So I think taking ownership and being proud of that is a big thing, because we all came over here on a boat unintentionally, unlike our 45 plus year old Carnival Cruise goers who like to get on boats. We from where we from in our city and states. That's what we put on for. I don't put on from any African country. I'm a fucking American. It is what it is. And I'm a firm believer in this too. Because of all the fucked up shit, I think, we need some reparations. I'm not saying give every person $1 million to go do stupid shit. But I mean, even if it's something as simple as like Blacks pay no taxes for life. I mean, that's a nice chunk of change to be able to have. Like, and think about it, even as you start gathering assets. So you would pay no property tax, no ad valorem tax, almost when you purchase your cars in certain states, your year-to-year tax on your cars in certain states, sales tax, just anything you pay tax on. Just think about all that money you'd have back in your pocket. That would be fire. So nobody even was trying to be greedy. We just need some type of reparations, and that'd probably be the easiest way. I identify as black. I have the proof in the way I look, in my DNA from ancestry. Gone, and don't charge me no taxes for the rest of my life. So a lot was said there, but I'll just put it like this. I personally wouldn't say I'd rather live anywhere else. I mean, a lot of these other countries, women ain't got no rights as well as they do here, even though unfortunately some of the rights are being stripped away in some states, and that's just very unfortunate. But that's why we have to get out and fucking vote. So some of that is on y'all. But I just don't think that it should be misunderstood that a lot of these people, man, they be fleeing their countries to come here. And it's not really the opposite. So shit ain't perfect. Again, super fucked up at the moment, partly on us as a collective because we didn't all vote. But for the 4th, all these other holidays, you best believe we on that goddamn grill or in that goddamn kitchen doing the damn thing. And I say this for all my I'd rather be in another country or I'm moving out the country motherfuckers. Man, how you gonna move to Canada when your ass can barely afford to live in Ohio? I don't know if they offer that same government assistance over there like that. And if you're trying to be in Toronto, it's expensive as fuck. Oh, Canada.
Thanks for listening to the FMFU podcast. Follow me on Facebook at FMFU Experience. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at FMFU_experience. Also check me out on Twitch for some Warzone action at ReesePup007. Remember, people, life is a series of choices. Just make sure you make the right one. Peace.